to our first invited talk of the morning. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Deepti Singh, Assistant Professor of Information System at California State University, Long Beach. Dr. Singh holds a PhD in Information System and MA in Economics from the University of South Florida and brings with her nearly a decade of industry experience in IT. Her research sits at the intersection of analytics, security, and healthcare, from cyber vulnerabilities and privacy to AI as a creative collaborator for business. So today, Dr. Singh will be speaking on effective and ethical use of AI in research, a subject that could not be more timely for the young researcher in this audience. Dr. Singh, please go ahead. And please, can we welcome her through giving round of
Good morning,
applause
ma'am.
through
Good evening,
chat?
ma'am, to you. Yeah, good evening, ma'am, to you.
Thank you, Pooja. I really appreciate Dr. Niharika and Dr. Pooja to give me such a warm welcome, and I am delighted to have this talk today in front of all of you. And a little bit about me. Pooja has given a whole long list of things. I am a humble researcher and I am also an educator at California State Long Beach. So this is some of my viewpoints in effective ethical use of AI in research. And I welcome all of you to come together and listen to me and then give me your side of the perspective, or maybe you have questions, then I would like to invite you for some questions. So I again welcome you all. I hope I am audible and my slides are visible. So I would be using my slides for this presentation and talk. So the topic of my talk is effective and ethical use of AI. I can make research faster, but this is not the same as the direction. So my research might follow a path. I can use AI, and it would make things faster, but it does not mean that it has given me the direction where I'm going. So the question is not simply, can AI help me? The question is basically, what is AI helping us move forward with? So I will use this metaphor that the AI is an engine and not a compass. It can increase the power, scale, and speed, but as a community, as a research community, we must still supply the purpose, the judgment, and the responsibility. And much of which is connecting to Dr. Niharika's point of academic responsibility. So moving forward. So let's just imagine two AI-enabled research cultures. In culture A, the AI makes everything faster, but the community loses the ability to explain, verify, and take responsibility. Whereas in culture B, AI is used just as heavily as A, or maybe even more. But its use strengthens learning, has rigor, inclusion, accountability. Now hold this distinction in mind whenever we are talking about AI. Which culture would you trust with medical knowledge, climate knowledge, education policies, or public decisions? The answer is not based on how much AI they use. It's based on whether the AI remains connected to the purpose of research. So this is just showing you the shared purpose of the research community, which is trustworthy knowledge. AI can make us faster, more productive, more creative, but speed and output are not self-justifying. The task is to prevent the capability from, separate the capability from taking over the compass. Research is a social promise. We promise to each other to create trustworthy knowledge. The product may be a paper, a poster, a report, a data set, software, a policy brief, a classroom project, or even a professional recommendation. But those products are not the final purpose. They are just instruments to a purpose. The larger purpose includes understanding, teaching, human benefits, and public trust. The framing lets school students and senior researchers enter the same conversation. We all here are participating in a knowledge system, and AI must be judged. by whether it is strengthening that system or it's weakening that system. So this is a stakeholder constellation in our small research community. Each stakeholder has a legitimate purpose. Ethical tensions arise because AI may help one stakeholder in the short term while shifting the risk to another. So the risk is shared amongst these shareholders, and once I am shifting risk, it might go on to somebody else. So AI in research is not only a technical choice by an individual, it is actually changing the relationships among students, teachers, researchers, communities, institutions, funders, public, professionals, technology providers. I would like to give you an example. A reviewer may save time by using AI to review some paper, but author is losing confidentiality. A student may get better answer now. Right now, you may produce a report 20 pages long, 30 pages long, and you meet the deadline, you get a grade, but you lose the practice, the struggle that you needed to become an independent thinker later. So another example is a public-facing summary. So you would see a lot of summary can be generated in flash of a second. So that would be simpler, but it may not show you the complete picture. It will hide certain uncertainty with it. So the ethical question here is not just, did AI help me? It is actually, what did it do to the research relationship that I have within this stellar constellation of stakeholders? So these are potential gains and potential losses, what AI actually changes. For students and educators, AI can make learning more accessible. It can explain difficult concepts, translate language, lower intimidation of unfamiliar fields. For researchers and professionals, it can accelerate the routine work, like improve clarity, support your testing. But the same tools can also hide shallow understanding, reproduce bias, expose private information, and weaken trust. So AI may reduce the language barriers, but it can also privilege the languages, institutions, and data sources most represented in training data. So what you feed is what you get. So garbage in, garbage out. If you have certain biases in your data and you're feeding it into AI, AI is just a learning mechanism. It will just make it multifold, and it will produce a product which will highlight that bias even at an exaggerated rate. So the goal is not to reject AI. That's not the goal. But we want to use it in ways that intentionally protect access, rigor, and responsibility. So what is your stakeholder responsibility? This is just a few things that I could think of, and I have listed out some examples of AI gain and AI losses, but it is much complex than this. So ethics begins by asking what each stakeholder is here for. AI can help each stakeholder, but it can also tempt each stakeholder to betray their own deeper purpose. And we all know what it looks like. The shorter gains for distant loss. So the short-term vision can make a stakeholder lose their purpose and see the gains, immediate gains only. So that brings us to this talk about the short-term vision versus virtue. Yes, I know that speaking about virtue can seem disconnected from the real world, where we have deadlines, competitions, citations, grants, and career pressures. But maybe the real world is exactly why we need to speak about it. The short-term systems often reward the behavior that creates long-term damage. And we can see that with environmental research and everything. So virtue is not just a moral perfection, but the habits that keep our knowledge system healthy. So I would say that honesty, humility, patience, courage, fairness, and responsibility may not always seem to win in the short-term competition. But when they are missing, the community pays a price. The community pays later through retractions, mistrust, harmed participants, weak education, unfair evaluation, and public skepticism. So ethics is a long-term infrastructure for trustworthy research, I would say. So these are 3 quick scenarios to give you an example of how ethics would look like in AI. For school students and undergraduates, the first case is very familiar. AI can help explain, but it can also replace the struggle which actually develops the understanding that you need for a long haul. For researchers, the second case is very common. AI can produce a polished literature review, but polished language cannot substitute hidden evidence or your own understanding or the depth of the context. So yes, it would look very good, it would look polished, but you can always understand when a human produces a quality work and what is the AI's law. And for educators and professionals, the third case shows how useful output cannot eliminate the duties of confidentiality. So for each case, we have to ask simply, what was it useful? Was it ethical? Was it trustworthy? The point is that ethical AI use is not defined only by the quality of the output, which may look polished, very polished, amazingly polished. But that's not the quality. We are not judging the polish with the quality. So it also depends on the consent, verification, privacy, learning, fairness, disclosure, and responsibility for that matter. So this is the stakeholder lens for ethical AI. This slide gives us a practical lens. Stakeholders differ, so ethical AI use cannot be one size fits all. A learner's purpose is not merely to submit a product, it is to become capable. The educator's purpose is not merely to grade faster, it is to guide fairly. A researcher's purpose is not simply to produce text, it is to make defensible claims. When the purpose is clear, the ethical question becomes easier. We are not trying to block every AI use, we are protecting the responsibility attached to each role. So when we are talking, when Dr. Niharika just talked about this role where the researcher is actually conducting a research, they are producing a claim. So they investigated, they have a claim and they would like to put it out in form of a published paper, which requires critique, which requires equally capable academics to comment, to review, to attack you with what ifs, with contrary arguments to what you are claiming. If you are able to defend your claim despite those attacks on you, on your claim, it's not attack on you, it's attack on the claim that you're making. So you have to take it constructively and you have to claim what the evidence shows. And if you're able to do that, and if you're true to your purpose and your claim is defensible with the evidence that you have at hand, then that calls for a quality research. So this is a philosophical compass. This slide just connects us to a deeper intellectual tradition. And in a simpler way, we have evolving philosophy. And whenever we have these old questions become really practical, then we have such powerful tools at hand. So the Aristotle asks what kind of a person we become through repeated practice. Kant reminds us not to treat people merely as data, labor, or means to our success. Mill asks us to count consequences beyond the immediate user, long term. Jonas asks us to consider long-term technological responsibility. Merton reminds us that science depends on norms like openness, skepticism, and shared accountability. These questions are not outdated. They are useful precisely because AI increases speed and scale. When tools become powerful, the need for orientation becomes stronger, much stronger. So this is a small orient framework. I just put it together as a discipline of remembering purpose before capability. It works for school projects, undergraduate research, peer reviews, professional reports, classroom policies, or funded research. We have to just keep these things in mind. So we need to know the original purpose. Start with a reason, not the tool. Just because you have AI at your hand, you paid some subscription, and you have a very powerful tool at hand, you're not going to generate garbage. You have to have a reason. You have to have something at your core to investigate. Then you need to retain responsibility. AI can assist you, but humans are accountable. So we cannot say, hey, this was produced by AI, so we don't know. If I ask you for a report and you are producing that report, whatever tool you may use Word, you may use Excel, you may use R, you may use Python. At the end of the day, you are the one who is attached to that report accountability. So the human retains the accountability. It's your responsibility to go and verify, because AI can hallucinate, AI can make mistakes. You cannot blame it on AI. The human has to remain accountable. Then you have inspect evidence. So never confuse the fluency that the AI has by default with verified facts. You have to verify what AI may not be able to. So as humans, I still value human intelligence over artificial intelligence. That's a personal belief, but I don't force anyone to think like me. But I do think that we have to be critical about how much AI can do. We might credit AI for more than what it can actually do. So we have to be critical when using AI. And for personal reasons, I have seen AI make errors so much. So I would not count it as my good student. Now, equity and dignity is equally important. We need to know who benefits and who carries the risk. So if somebody is benefiting and somebody is carrying the risk, you have seen the biases that we have talked about. There are racial biases, there are other biases that might creep in because of the nature of data that we have generated. So we are the teachers for artificial intelligence to learn. We have generated the data, the training data that makes it learn. Now, if we have biases, our data will have biases. We teach biases to AI, then AI is bound to make wrong judgments, have a biased perspective, or make who might be risking a particular community, risking a particular set of people, and we need to have an equity and dignity attached to our use. Then we need to notify and disclose. So make the materials visible to the right people. So we need to disclose wherever AI was used, and we have the clear picture. So we need to also validate outputs like test and trace, and keep enough records to reconstruct what happened. So there's a quick real activity that I would say. Just so this is something that I read in a recent research, and I would suggest you can do that. Take a human written story, take it to the AI, and whatever tool you choose, ask the AI to write a similar story. You would see, then you keep all those stories and you would be able to see clearly human stories are not of one shape. And the AI always produces the same kind of stuff. So it's bound to be deterministic. It's bound to teach you, over-explain, do certain things which are very typical of AI. So you may be like deleting those M dashes from your reports, but that's not it. That's not what is going to produce quality. You have to take an output for what it is, and it may not be perfect. So this is not a break on innovation or something. It is just steering it in the right direction. So this is an example of my own presentation. A disclosure is not a confession and not a badge of technological sophistication. It's a scholarly context. A useful disclosure answers 4 questions. What tool or type of tool was used? What role did it play? What it did not do? Who remains responsible? The weakest thing I can say is I used AI. That has no context, no meaningful context. So for this presentation, I would like to disclose that the AI assistance was used for refining the language and generating conceptual visuals. I'm not good at drawing, and this is not my visuals. I still reviewed, revised, and owned the final content. That's the principle of retained responsibility in action. So today I would just request you to have an academic commitment to yourself. One responsibility that I will not delegate is you can keep it to yourself or you can type it in chat. Both are welcome. AI can help students learn, help teachers teach, help researchers test claims, help professionals translate knowledge into action. But AI cannot decide what research is for. It cannot accept moral responsibility on our behalf. AI can make us faster, but ethics determine whether faster means forward. So we used to have, just think like this. We used to have an old car. We got the keys to a brand new AI race car. Can we steer it right? These are some of the selected references and policy anchors. I would say that the same rules don't apply everywhere. Schools, universities, funders, journals, employers, professional bodies may have different policies and rules. This talk is just a starting point for adaptation. The specific rule may differ across fields, but the recurring ethical structure is similar. You need to have clear purpose, retain responsibility, verify evidence, protect people, disclose material use, and keep a traceable process. And that brings my talk to an end. Hopefully you had some insight from it, and thank you for your attention and participation. I would love to answer any questions if you have, and if the time permits. I can also be reached at this email on screen. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, for such a hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Singh, for such a thought.